You know, what if you could build a real, lasting peace on just a single piece of paper? Well, today, we're diving into Abyei. It's this oil-rich territory literally caught between two nations, where a brand new declaration is promising to end generations of conflict. But in a place this volatile, is this a real lifeline or is it just another broken promise? Let's get into it.
So, picture this, April 7th, 2026. Something pretty incredible happens. Leaders from the Ngok Dinka and the Misseriya, these are two communities that have been locked in conflict for generations, they actually came together and signed a declaration. The promise? It sounds simple, but it is absolutely radical, to finally create a weapons-free Abyei.
But, of course, that brings us to the big question, right? The one that hangs over everything. In a region that is just defined by conflict, is this piece of paper a genuine breakthrough, or is it just the latest in a very, very long line of broken promises? Okay, so to really get its potential, we have to look closely at the declaration itself. I mean, what exactly did they agree to? And more importantly, what makes this attempt at peace any different from all the others that have failed before? So here are the basics. You've got the two main communities signing on. And yeah, you'd expect that. But the real game changer here is the third signatory, the UN peacekeeping force, UNISFA. Now, they weren't just watching this happen. They were part of the deal. And that creates this crucial link between local promises and the international mandate for peace. The goal itself sounds so simple. Get the unauthorized guns out of there. But why is a pledge to just remove weapons so revolutionary here? I mean, it sounds straightforward. To get that, you really have to understand Abyei itself, a place whose very strange and troubled history is basically written in conflict. The best way to think of Abyei is as a state of political purgatory. It's this huge, oil-rich area that's claimed by both Sudan and South Sudan. But here's the thing. Since 2011, it has belonged to neither. It's essentially a ghost state, just stuck in suspended animation with only the UN standing between its people and total chaos. And right at the heart of this limbo are two communities with completely different ways of life. On one side, you have the Ngok Dinka. They're settled farmers who see Abyei as their ancestral home, period. For them, a vote, a referendum, is the path to justice. But on the other side, you have the Misseriya, nomadic herders who absolutely must migrate through Abyei for their cattle to survive. So for them, a vote that could fence them out isn't just a political loss, it's an existential threat. In this timeline, well, it shows you exactly where the politics failed them. A referendum on Abyei's future was promised way back in 2005, but by 2011 it was postponed indefinitely, all because of one single question they couldn't answer: who gets to vote? Violence exploded, the UN had to step in, and then, in 2023, the war in Sudan completely froze any last hope of a political solution, leaving the people of Abyei just utterly abandoned by the powers that be. So this political vacuum has left this incredibly dangerous power struggle on the ground. Today, what you have is one force desperately trying to keep the peace, and several other forces actively working to spoil it. That peacekeeping force is UNISFA, and just try to imagine their job. You have about 4,000 troops trying to protect civilians in a totally lawless territory that's caught between two warring states. It is a nearly impossible task. And you guessed it, that task is getting harder every single day. The first major threat is a direct spillover from Sudan's devastating civil war. The notorious Rapid Support Forces, you know them as the RSF, they're pushing into northern Abyei, setting up illegal checkpoints and just fueling this massive wave of crime. And at the same time, another threat is popping up from the south. This time, it's South Sudan's own army, the SSPDF. They've moved forces into the area, which is a blatant violation of Abyei's agreed-upon status as a demilitarized zone. And their presence is actively undermining the UN's ability to keep the peace. So let's get this straight. You have more armed groups, more instability, and way more danger for civilians. And what's the international response? To cut the UN peacekeeping budget by 15%. I mean, at the exact moment they need more support than ever, their resources are being stripped away. It's unbelievable. So in this incredibly fragile environment, we have to come back to that piece of paper. What is its real value? And what are its fundamental limits? This is why, despite all that chaos, the declaration is actually strategically brilliant. Okay, first off, it formally ties the communities to the UN's peacekeeping mandate. That's huge. Second, it's just smart diplomacy. It tackles a concrete, actionable problem, the weapons, instead of getting bogged down in the impossible question of who owns the land. And third, it gives the UN a desperately needed win, just as its funding and its entire mandate are up for review. It's a political masterstroke, really. But, and it's a big but, here's the reality check, and it's captured perfectly in this UN quote. There is a hard ceiling on how much progress can be made locally, because no matter what good things happen on the ground, the high-level political process between Sudan and South Sudan is completely, totally frozen. And this is what that political paralysis looks like in the real world. The big committees that were created to solve this crisis? Dormant. The joint police force they promised to protect people? It was never even established. So while the communities are trying to build peace from the ground up, the actual seats of power remain empty. There's just a total vacuum of leadership from the top. So where does all of this leave us? How can we actually measure whether this declaration is just empty words or if it's a real turning point? What are the signs of progress that we should all be watching for? All right, here's your checklist. First, look at what's happening on the ground. Are the guns and illegal checkpoints actually disappearing? That's number one. Second, look at the community. Are those local peace committees still meeting? Is the dialogue continuing? Third, keep an eye out for the official word. The UN's August report is going to be a huge indicator. And finally, as always, follow the money. Will humanitarian aid, which fled the violence, start to come back? That will be the ultimate sign of confidence. And so we're left with this really powerful and, frankly, uncertain image. You have the people of Abyei building peace with their own hands, stone by stone, from the ground up. But can a grassroots peace like that actually survive without a political foundation to support it? Can courage from below overcome indifference from above? That is the question, and I promise you, the world will be watching for the answer.